Now, Will Muschamp was able to bring in recruiting classes typically in that 15 to 25 range, and that's about where Shane Beamer is right now. But still, that said, I'm hearing positive things just in regards to what he's able to, some of the inroads that he's been able to make, not that weren't necessarily there before.
Yeah, I mean, for South Carolina, until South Carolina reels off 3, 4, 5, 10-win type seasons, 9, 10-win type seasons, I don't know if you ever expect them to jump into a top 10 recruiting class. Even when Steve Spurrier had it going here in Columbia, the typical recruiting class ranking was around 17 or 18. What Steve Spurrier had was developmental coaches. Brad Lawing on the defensive line, the guy Shane Beamer that we're talking about, was able to develop them. Sean Elliott, now the coach at Georgia State, was able to develop offensive linemen. You had Lorenzo Ward developing secondary players. You know, we talk about there are great Gamecocks, Stephon Gilmore, Marcus Lattimore, some dude named Clowney, but you had role players like a Devin Taylor who's gone on to have a very good NFL career. DJ Swearinger going on to have a good NFL career. Connor Shaw was not some prized recruit that South Carolina beat out Georgia and Alabama and Florida for. You had coaches that develop players. And right now, that's how South Carolina's going to have to be. This is a nice recruiting class. It's a good starting point, but it's going to be up to this coaching staff to develop those players and maximize their potential. DJ Swearinger is one of the best safeties to ever play for South Carolina. And again, he was committed to Tennessee, but he was a 3-star recruit. He wasn't some elite level recruit where people were banging down his door in Greenwood trying to get him to come. And that's where South Carolina is a football program. Kentucky's done a great job of it, having guys that can develop players and maximize potential. So, yeah, the recruiting is good. It's about the same as it always is. Do you have coaches who can maximize potential?
For some reason, this stat sticks in my mind about Connor Shaw. I think it's one of the most amazing stats in modern college football history that he went through an entire 13-game season, one of those 11-2 seasons with one interception. I think he threw 24 touchdowns, one pick. He was definitely underrated. 21 signed, 6 enroll early, which means they're going to be on campus here in the next 10 days. I would think something in that range if they're not already. Anybody stick out from a class that's rated 10th in the SEC, 22nd in the nation, according to 247 Sports? Any particular storyline, narrative, or particular players that stand out to you?
I mean, I'll be honest, Mark, the recruiting industry, and this is how I got started doing radio, how I got started in the sporting field was doing recruiting, and that was back about 15, 16 years ago now. And to be honest with you, the evolution of recruiting, and now we're watching it, the evolution of college football with the transfer portal. In terms of freshmen, maybe Anthony Rose is a 6'4", 180-pound defensive back safety prospect out of the Miami area. Usually, you can never go wrong recruiting Miami speed and football athleticism. But we mentioned it. Spencer Rattler will be here for spring ball, and I know we talked about him. They landed a wide receiver out of the transfer portal from James Madison, who was one of the all-time leading wide receivers at James Madison. Amin Wells. Amarion Brown is a totally different receiver. Amin Wells is coming in. They landed a defensive end out of North Carolina State, Terrell Dawkins, at a position of need. So it's kind of funny. Yeah, you look at the freshman class and you say, okay, well, these guys are on campus. There's a quarterback, Braden Davis, that maybe we'd be talking a lot more about coming in and competing, given all the quarterback uncertainty. But then you kind of look back now and you say, well, wait a minute. All right, Spencer Rattler's coming in and he'll be here for spring ball. The transfer portal, I think, just changes everything with how we view high school football recruiting. Devonnie Reed is another safety prospect from Central Michigan that South Carolina landed that will give them depth in the secondary that will be here in the next week or so. So in terms of freshmen, I don't know if it's guys there that you're looking at and say, oh, yeah, that guy's going to come in and make an instant impact, as much as now you look at your transfer portal and you say, okay, what guys are enrolling where, and how does that impact your team quicker in 2022 with college-ready players?